Usually games do everything they can to stop you from using it the wrong way or making it collapse in on itself, but I like it when games let you do that. So let's talk about some. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 games that actually let you break the game. Starting off at number 10, it's Noita. Yes, I say it like it's a D. That is my Midwestern accent. Don't talk to me about pronunciation on this one. But anyway, The Binding of Isaac, Slay the Spire, Risk of Rain 2, take pretty much any major roguelike, and you got a game that's just begging to be broken wide open with the most overpowered builds possible. It's a big part of the appeal of these games, getting that perfect god run where everything clicks. These games can get pretty damn nuts with the right lucky build, Risk of Rain 2 especially, but out of all these games, Noita is the one where you can really break the game in some absurd ways. Now, the thing that makes Noita particularly different, it's a highly systematic game. The world follows certain rules of physics. Water flows, smoke spreads realistically, different kinds of rock break and crumble differently, and you got these crazy spells that aren't just attacks. They can alter the world in all sorts of crazy and unexpected ways. Throw spell mods in there, and some absolutely broken combinations can be created, but in this game's case, you'll need them because Noita is a relentlessly difficult game. Noita is absolutely a you break my back, I break yours type situation. I will say the devs have gone out of their way to patch out some of the most absurdly broken tricks in the game, but most of what you can do is fair game. Like, you can use spell duplication and divide spells that make your magic projectiles split into multiple pieces. It should make them weaker, but it actually gets way stronger, or just blow black holes that summon more black holes around. The possibilities make absurdly powerful spells, and they are virtually endless. It is up to you to find the necessary wands, spells, and modifiers to make it happen, but you can do that. I believe in you. One of the most satisfying but simple game breakers comes through the Luminous Drill spell combined with the Ping Pong Path modifier. On a wind with a ton of mana, you'll be able to delete just anything that stands in your way with deadly lasers that cut through it. It's nuts. And I'm scratching the surface. I'm a Noita neophyte. I don't pretend to be an expert on Noita. I hadn't really played it until Steam started blasting it in my face every time I started the program up, and I was, all right, I'll try it. As it turns out, it's fantastic, but it's not just a good game, it's also fascinating to play, read about, and watch, even if you don't know what's really going on. At number 9 is Baldur's Gate 3. At first, Baldur's Gate 3 seems like a tactical RPG, and if you want to play it normally, that's pretty much what it ends up being. But if you dig a little deeper, you find that it is actually a sandbox where there's 1,000,001 ways to utterly decimate the game with all kinds of unintuitive tricks. Many of these things start off simple enough, just combine the right equipment, and suddenly you can attack 6 times in a row and get a sneak attack for every hit, and make multiple turns before an enemy can act. It's simple exploits like separating a party member and always starting a fight with a backstab so the enemy group always loses their first turn. Or, throwing weapons instead of using them because of how overpowered they can be. There's the classic box trick where you fill a box with an infinite amount of other boxes and it becomes insanely heavy and you drop it on enemies and it kills them instantly. Or do something completely absurd like using an improvised weapon on a human, dragging them back into a dark alley for your gang of miscreants to brutalize in relative safety.
Pigs have 5.
It's kind of crazy how many ways you can break this game wide open. But most of the time, it's not really even that hard to do.
Gerdel Iron Hand, hear me now! Set me free! Wait, what in the hell's?
At number 8 is Metroid Dread. One of the more interesting phenomenons in the Metroidvania genre is when developers intentionally leave in skips and sequence breaks for players to discover, purely to facilitate speedrunning. Old games like Super Metroid were full of game-breaking skips and stuff like that, but they were unintentional, albeit they created a bit of a tradition of spending weeks and years grinding away to find, stuff that breaks open the games. Stuff people loved. So, like I said, it evolved into actually just devs intentionally leaving room for some game breaking on purpose to amuse the hardcore audience. Metroid Dread is one such game where they could have easily cut you off from getting certain equipment like the grapple beam early, but they didn't. It's tricky to pull off, but with some careful jumping, it's possible to get the grapple, then the bombs, and you could use that stuff to kill Kraid real easily. The trick here is to bomb a secret spot in the boss area. It opens up a launcher that sends you to the boss's body where you can use bombs to kill it real quick. It's an exploit, but one that developers clearly designed because none of this would be possible without getting the bombs first. Metroid Dread isn't just one of those games where you can break it, they actively encourage players to break it. At number 7 is Skyrim. Half the fun of Bethesda games is, of course, breaking them. The developers know that and encourage that, and intentionally leave in the game-breaking tricks because everyone loves them. It's also possible they have no idea how to fix them, to be fair, and it's not as though the most recent iteration of it is the best one. All their games are like that, but Skyrim's probably the one that people like the most. The absurd enchantment loop just fascinates me. It's a little tricky to set up and explain, but it's such a perfect example of why Bethesda games still capture our imagination, especially older ones. The basic trick here is you need to enchant an item to improve your alchemy skill, equip the item. Then, with the alchemy bonus, you make a potion that makes your enchantment skill better. While under the effects of the potion, you make a new piece of equipment that boosts the alchemy, which will then be more effective because of the alchemy boost. And then you make some new enchantment boosting equipment, and just keep doing that over and over until your enchantment skill is far beyond what it should normally be. And that's when you slap some regular combat or magic enhancements, and you delete anything that stands in your way. It's just gone. Stuff like this is built into the systems in Skyrim. It's not something you're supposed to be doing, but it's just that you're doing something in an unconventional way that the developers haven't anticipated. Or, I mean, at this point, they have to have anticipated because they've left it in other games. Although, I will again argue, it doesn't come off as well in later games. Like, I think Fallout 4 is probably the last one where all of this was particularly charming. I think it's all to a lesser degree now and feels more intentional, and that, to me, makes it feel less charming. I don't know. It's just really satisfying to do in Skyrim, I'll say. At number 6 is the Talos Principle. You can't really break the Talos Principle like other games on the list. It's a puzzle game, but what makes it different is the way the game encourages you to do things that would normally not be possible in other games. If you're just going for standard completion, the puzzle rooms are pretty self-contained, but each world tends to have secrets that can only be discovered by doing things like sneaking tools out of a puzzle room, using them in an unexpected place. Shooting lasers out of one room into another, which can then be sent to some hidden receiver, some distant part of the map. It goes hard, actually. Sometimes it just involves you using boxes and jumping to places you don't think you're supposed to be able to go, which is like my favorite thing to do in games. If you show me a place that looks like I could get there, but I'm not supposed to, I will get there. The thing is, in Talos Principle, it's all meant to be in the game. Still, it feels like breaking the game, especially the trickiest ones. Now, that's outside the usual tricks that can be used to complete many of the puzzles in unintended ways. They're usually trickier to set up, but sometimes the wrong solution is the one that's easiest for you, and the game doesn't care. The best puzzle games are the ones that you don't have to do them the right way, even if in hindsight it was counterintuitive. It's just so much more satisfying when a game lets you blunder into completely unexpected solutions to one of its problems. And number 5 is Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Breath of the Wild may have exploded the Zelda formula, but Tears is the game that broke it wide open. You could do some pretty crazy stuff in the first game, but nothing compared to the comedy potential of Ultra Hand and Fuse. The game lets you build all kinds of rickety contraptions that fall apart in seconds, but with the right combos, you can do some absolutely absurd shit. Make an infinity flying hover car, a spinning automated death machine that can kill anything in seconds. Just strap a bunch of lasers to a robot head, give it a tread, and have at it. building a spinning death machine covered in spikes that shoots fire at the same time and also electrifies anything. You can do that. I'm sorry, I'm kind of just making things up, but you can do all of these things. I mean, I kind of wasn't really making that up. I felt like I was making it up, but I mean, you can do that. There are things that you have to do basically what I mean, I may not have described it perfectly, but you have to get some weird parts like spikes and this engine, and you have to exploit the fuse system to do so. Like, there are parts that you can get in a shrine. You have to fuse them to a weapon and take the weapon to Terrytown and get it disassembled to use that part outside of a shrine. And then you just make a blueprint, and now you have an infinite supply of something you're not supposed to have. It's a good trick. I like finding that kind of trick. This stuff is all purposefully built into the game, but then smuggling weapon parts out of a shrine kind of isn't, I guess. I don't know. To some extent, this point is actually kind of confusing because essentially that game is built to be broken. At number 4 is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. We're going way back to the PS1. At least according to the game's director, it wasn't meant to be, but they kind of went overboard with that. When you play the game, you kind of just get so overpowered you feel like you're breaking the game. Like, it feels like you're exploiting this game because it gets crazy. There's a ton of ways to trivialize the difficulty even further, though. One of the easiest ways is to kill this enemy called the Shmoo in the Forbidden Library. They're a chump and normally completely forgettable, but they have a rare chance of dropping the most absurdly broken weapon in the game, specifically a sword that attacks multiple times. It does devastating damage, and you don't even have to stop to swing it. It just attacks on its own while you're just marching forward. Yeah, it's basically Vampire Survivor weapon type stuff. Wouldn't be shocked if that's actually the inspiration for that game, given the, thing. But, I mean, that's powerful, but it barely feels like an exploit because you just find it. The shield rod is a lot more obscure. Not the weapon itself. It's pretty easy to find. But it's got a secret power that I don't think is actually explained anywhere in the game. If you press the attack and block buttons at the same time, with the shield rod and the shield equipped, it performs a secret skill. The most powerful combo, to put it mildly, is the Alucard shield. Makes it so if you're holding the shield, you do crazy amounts of damage per second, restore health with every hit, and are essentially invulnerable to all damage. It takes a while to actually get the Alucard shield, but once you have it, the game's over. Everything dies, including the game's super hard bonus boss in like seconds. And this is all apparently totally intentional on the developer's part. Those are only the two most obvious ways to break the game. There's so many other ways that it would be basically impossible to list all of them here. I mean, I'm still learning new ones, and we're getting perilously close to this game's 30th friggin' anniversary. There's just so many little secrets and secret powers in Symphony of the Night that the game-breaking potential is pretty limitless.
Go back to the abyss. Trouble the soul of my mother no more.
How could I have lost?
And number 3 is Rogue Lords. This roguelike isn't all that different from other deck-building games in the genre, except one major exception. The gimmick of this game is that you're playing as the literal devil with underlings who do your bidding. They have their own health bars, but once they're down, enemies can attack you directly, sort of like Yu-Gi-Oh! A little bit. I think that's how that works. I'm not gonna lie, I don't spend a lot of time playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Or any time. Your hit points are called demonic essence, but they let you do a lot more than take a few final hits. The stuff it basically makes it so you can cheat. That's where the real power to exploit comes into play, and it's built right in the game. By spending essence, you can do all kinds of game-breaking things like lowering enemy health, instantly restoring your health, steal status buffs from enemies, even improve your odds in random events. It's basically an I win button, right? You can press it when you really need it, and it swings everything in your favor, but at the cost of a precious resource that can't always be replenished. In that way, it's actually not all that game-breaking at all, but the way that cheating is built in the game's play systems just makes it super interesting and actually innovative in terms of a roguelike. Some of its other systems are a little fiddly and awkward, but Devil Mode is a brilliant idea.
It's high time I interfered. The only limit to my power is my imagination. Mortals. From now on, you belong to me.
At number 2 is The Outer Wilds, Echoes of the Eye. Here's another game where exploiting, it's part of the game. Spoilers ahead, because if you haven't played it, this is going to totally ruin the DLC for you. So, in Echoes of the Eye, you find this mysterious space station that's seemingly abandoned. Inside, you can find a lamp that, when used in certain locations, seems to transport you to a mysterious dark world that, surprise, surprise, turns the game into one of the most terrifying horror games of all time. At least until you learn the secret. The way to truly advance in this place is to understand the best ways to exploit it, because the dark world full of stalking aliens is actually a simulation, and that lamp you got is the thing projecting it. You might spend hours wandering through this place, cowering in fear and very slowly, carefully trying to avoid getting spotted by the dwellers, but once you begin to understand how the simulation works, all the stuff that seemed really scary suddenly seems totally pointless. There's a lot of ways to abuse the simulation for your own benefit, like if you drop the lamb somewhere and then walk away in the light, you're suddenly finding yourself in a wireframe world outside the simulated environment. You're essentially no-clipping through the world, and in this state, you can easily spot any of the dwellers and they can't do a damn thing to you. They've been neutralized to the power of a game-breaking but entirely intentional trick, and figuring this out is just one of the many puzzles in Echoes of the Eye, but it's the one that really does make your third eye feel as though it's opened, so to speak. And finally, at number 1, an often forgotten Double Fine Legend of Zelda rip-offy looking thing. But it's not quite that, because instead of a sword, you use a USB, and instead of hacking enemies to pieces, you literally hack them by altering their code. That's the primary gimmick of the game, and you actually access the game code and tinker with it to do things like instantly kill enemies or make them join your side or just take away their collision so they're harmless. There's a point in the game where you can give yourself basically infinite health by forcing the game to repeat a one-time event where you got a 10 HP health boost. And this is just part of the game. It's something they expect you to do. It's essentially a kid-friendly way to learn about game programming. And while you can just easily stick to the basics like altering values and mostly leaving the code alone, there are endless ways to go into the game files and really monkey around with it. It's not just possible, but highly likely you can break the game entirely, or teleport yourself to somewhere you're not supposed to be yet, or in some way screw yourself and hopelessly mess up some random part of the game. It's just because you have access to the code and you can do whatever with it. It's a game that is designed to be broken in every possible way. It's not just about giving the illusion you're breaking the game, but you're on the rails. In hack and slash, no. The game files are open to you and you're free to do as much or as little with it as possible. As an introduction to game programming, it's one of the best games out there. It really lets you just F around with everything in a way that no other game really does. And I mean, that's really cool, especially if you're making a list where you're looking for ways that games let you break them. I mean, that's kind of the ultimate one. It's at the number one, you know? Anyway, that's all I've got for you. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Don't forget to press like. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and best way to see them is, of course, the subscribe button. Don't forget to enable notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter, Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time, right here on Game Ranks.